My daughter and her husband invited me to spend Christmas with them in Vancouver. When I arrived at their house in Kitsilano, every light was off. The driveway was empty. I stood there with my old carry-on, snow dusting my shoulders, and I was about to call a taxi when their neighbor burst out of her front door and ran across the lawn in her slippers. She grabbed my arm so hard it hurt and said, "Mr. Beaulieu, you need to leave right now. These people are not what you think. They are going to destroy you." I looked at her, this woman I had never met, and I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not fear, recognition. My wife had tried to tell me the same thing 5 years ago, and I hadn't listened. I should have, but this time I didn't run. I checked into the Fairmont and I called my lawyer. The trap was set. Before I continue this story, tell me in the comments where you are watching from, and please hit like and subscribe if you believe that underestimating a quiet man is the biggest mistake anyone can make. My name is Clifford Beaulieu. I am 68 years old. I was born in Chicoutimi, Quebec, and I have lived in Ottawa for the last 40 years. For most of that time, I built things. Buildings, bridges, office towers. Beaulieu and Grenier Engineering was my life's work, mine and my wife Marguerite's. She handled the numbers, I handled the steel. Together we built a firm that designed half the federal infrastructure projects in Eastern Ontario through the 90s and 2000s. But nobody outside our accountants knew that. We lived in the same 3-bedroom brick house in Alta Vista that we bought in 1986. We drove a Subaru. We went to the same Tim Hortons every Sunday morning. We raised our daughter Natalie to believe that comfort was earned, not inherited. Marguerite died 2 years ago, pancreatic cancer, fast and merciless. After she passed, Natalie and her husband Troy started calling me every week. "Dad, you're all alone in that big house. Come out to Vancouver. We have the guest room ready. Let us take care of you." Their concern moved me. Natalie was our only child. She had married Troy Pickering 8 years earlier, a real estate appraiser from Langley who smiled too much and listened too little. Marguerite never trusted him. "Cliff," she would say, stirring her tea at our kitchen table, her glasses low on her nose, "that man doesn't look at Natalie, he looks through her. He's calculating." I told her she was being harsh. I told her Troy just needed time. I was wrong. Now I was standing on a dark street in Kitsilano, staring at a house I owned, a house I had bought for them 6 years ago through the Beaulieu Family Trust, a house they lived in rent-free while Troy built his career and Natalie worked part-time at a nonprofit. The porch light was off. The mailbox was stuffed so full the flap wouldn't close. I pulled out a handful. BC Hydro, final notice. Visa, past due. A letter from a collection agency in red ink. My stomach turned. That's when Barb Ouellette appeared. She was a stout woman, maybe 60, with sharp eyes and a Winnipeg accent that cut through the December air. "You're Clifford," she said, not a question. "Marguerite's husband." My head snapped up. "You knew my wife?" "She called me 2 years ago, right before she passed. Her and my late sister went to McGill together, way back. Your wife asked me to watch your daughter's house," she said. "Barb, my daughter married a man who sees dollar signs where love should be. When I'm gone, they're going to go after Cliff. Please just keep your eyes open for me." I stared at her. Even from her hospital bed, Marguerite had been planning. She had never told me. Barb leaned in closer. "They're in trouble, Mr. Beaulieu. Bad trouble. They owe money to someone named Dominic. Not a bank. A person. The kind of person who doesn't send letters. He sends people." She looked at the dark house. "They didn't invite you here for Christmas. They invited you here because they need your money. They've been telling everyone the old man from Ottawa is coming to bail them out." The old man. The ATM. I gripped my suitcase handle until my knuckles turned white. Barb thought she was warning a lamb about the wolves. She didn't know she was talking to the man who had engineered the Confederation Bridge approach spans. She was talking to the man who had stared down federal auditors, union disputes, and a province's worth of red tape for 40 years. They had no idea who Clifford Beaulieu really was. I thanked Barb. I told her I'd go to a hotel. She looked relieved. But I didn't go to the airport. I went to the Fairmont Pacific Rim, booked a suite, and called Ingrid Falk, my lawyer in Vancouver. Ingrid was not a gentle woman. She was a litigator who had spent 20 years dismantling corporate fraud. She picked up on the second ring. "Cliff, it's 11 at night. They're trying to sell my house, Ingrid. Check the trust. Check everything. I'll explain in the morning." Then I went back to Natalie's house. I found the spare key exactly where Marguerite and I had hidden it years ago under the third stone, the back step. I let myself in. The place smelled stale, neglected. I went to the guest room, lay down on a dusty bed and waited. They came home just past midnight. I heard the garage door. I heard Natalie's voice first, sharp and angry, and Troy's low mumble underneath it. They didn't know I was in the house. I stayed in the dark, listening. "He's supposed to be here by now," Natalie hissed. "If he doesn't give us the money by Friday, Dominic is going to." "I know," Troy cut her off. "Just keep it together. Your father is soft. He'll cave. He always caves. Soft." My own daughter thought I was soft. The next morning, I came downstairs slowly, holding my lower back, playing the frail retiree they expected. Natalie was in the kitchen making eggs, her smile so bright it hurt to look at. "Dad, you're here. We're so sorry we weren't home." Troy had a work thing, and I went with him. You know how Vancouver traffic is. There were no grocery bags. She was wearing a cocktail dress at 8 in the morning. "You're very kind, sweetheart," I said, sitting down heavily. "But I have to say, your neighbor Barb, she seemed very worried of money trouble." Natalie laughed. It was a sharp, brittle sound. "Barb? Oh, Dad, she's a lonely old woman. She makes things up. Don't listen to a word she says." Troy appeared, hiding behind his phone. "Hey, Cliff, good to see you." He called me Cliff, not Dad. Never Dad. "Actually," Natalie said, sitting down across from me, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Since you're here, we wanted to talk to you about something exciting. Troy found an incredible investment opportunity. A condo presale in Surrey. Guaranteed a little help with the deposit." "How much?" I asked. $75,000. The words came out fast, bright, rehearsed. I let my face fall. I let my hands tremble. 75,000? Natalie, that's almost a year of my pension. Since your mother passed, the CPP and OAS barely cover the bills. I live simply. I don't have that kind of money sitting around. Natalie's smile cracked, just a frack cold. Troy stopped pretending to look at his phone. "Come on, Cliff," he said. "You and Marguerite, you must have savings, RRSPs, something." "Your mother handled all that," I said, my voice weak. "I never understood the investments. She was the smart one." The lie hung in the air. Troy's jaw tightened. Natalie stood up, her chair scraping the floor. "Fine, think about it. But the deadline is Friday." She walked out. Troy followed. I alone in the kitchen with a plate of cold eggs and a mailbox full of debt. At 10:30, my phone buzzed. "Ingrid." I locked myself in the bathroom and turned on the fan. "Cliff, it's worse than you thought." Her voice was ice. "Someone filed a fraudulent power of attorney with the BC Land Title Office. It claims you are mentally incapacitated and that Natalie has full authority to sell the Kitsilano property. The signature is forged. The medical assessment references a doctor in Ottawa who doesn't exist. They're in escrow. An all-cash offer for $2.1 million. Closing date is Friday." I leaned against the wall. "They're not asking me for $75,000 because they need a deposit, Ingrid. They're asking me for $75,000 to pay off a loan shark while they steal my house behind my back." "Correct. The 75 is the distraction. The house is the prize. Stop the sale. Contact the Crown prosecutor. But don't let them know. Not yet." "What are you planning, Cliff?" "A meeting. Tomorrow morning. Your office. 10 o'clock. Tell them I'm bringing a certified check for $200,000 to pay off their debt. Tell them I'm signing the house over. Tell them I'm too old and too scared to fight." I heard Ingrid exhale. "You're going to bring them into my office and serve them. I'm going to give them exactly what they deserve." That evening, I let the performance build. Natalie pressured me again after dinner. Troy stood behind her like a shadow, nodding. I let my voice crack. I let my eyes water. Okay, I whispered. Okay, you win. I have money, not just the pension. Your mother, she left some investments. I didn't want anyone to know. I was saving it. Natalie's eyes lit up like someone had plugged her into a wall socket. But I'm not giving it to you, I said. I'll pay this Dominic directly, and we'll do it at my lawyer's office, properly, legally. Your lawyer? Troy said, his face souring. Let's just go to the TD branch. No, my way or not at all. I want receipts. I want this Dominic to sign a document. I want this finished. They agreed. Of course they agreed. They thought the old man had finally broken. The next morning, Ingrid's office on the 32nd floor of a tower on West Georgia, floor-to-ceiling glass, a conference table that could seat 20. I sat at the head, my arm in a sling I had fashioned from a pharmacy tensor bandage the night before after I had staged a fall against the kitchen counter. The bruise on my shoulder was real. The weakness was not. Natalie and Troy arrived first. Natalie was wearing her best blazer. She looked confident, triumphant. Troy was pale and sweating. He knew something was wrong but couldn't name it. Then Dominic Tesoro walked in. He was not what I expected. Slim, elegant, a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Troy's car. Italian shoes, a silver watch. He looked like a Bay Street banker, not a loan shark. But his eyes were flat, dead. The eyes of a man who had learned that violence was just another line item. He sat across from me, folded his hands, and smiled. Mr. Beaulieu, I'm glad we could resolve this in a civilized manner. Ingrid opened the proceedings. Mr. Tesoro, my client is prepared to settle his daughter's $200,000 debt in full today. Natalie's smile widened. This was it, the jackpot. However, Ingrid continued, there is the matter of the payment source. She paused. Mr. Beaulieu has sold the Kitsilano property. The room went dead silent. Natalie's smile vanished. What? The property was sold this morning at 8 a.m. to a numbered company. All cash. $2.1 million. The funds are currently in my firm's trust account. Natalie shot to her feet. You can't. We live there. We're selling it. We're in escrow. In front of witnesses. In front of her own loan shark, Ingrid slid a document across the table. This is the fraudulent power of attorney you filed with the Land Title Office. Forged signature. A fake medical assessment. A notary who retired 3 years ago and whose stamp was stolen. This is Exhibit A in a fraud prosecution. Troy put his head in his hands. Natalie was shaking. Where is the rest of the money? She demanded. 2.1 million minus 200,000. Where is the rest? Even now, even caught, even exposed, all she could think about was the money. The remaining 1.9 million, Ingrid said, has been transferred to the Marguerite Beaulieu Foundation, a charitable trust established to provide legal aid to elderly Canadians who are victims of financial abuse by family members. The room was silent. Natalie stared. Charity? You gave it to charity? Your mother's charity, I said quietly. She planned this. She knew you would do exactly what you did. She put a clause in her will. If you ever attempted to exploit me financially, your inheritance would be voided and redirected. She named Troy specifically as a negative influence. Troy's head snapped up. She named me? She saw you the first time you came to our house in Ottawa. You spent the entire dinner asking about the value of our neighborhood. You asked Natalie right in front of us when she thought I'd finally retire. That night, Marguerite went to her study and started building the trust. She called Barb it. She'd added the clause to her will. She saw this day coming 5 years before it arrived. Natalie was crying now, not tears of remorse, tears of rage. You can't do this. I'm your daughter. That's my inheritance. It was, I said, and you burned it. The conference room doors opened. 2 RCMP officers in plainclothes stepped in. Behind them, Barb Wellet, dressed in a neat wool coat, smiling quietly. And behind Barb, 2 investigators from the Canada Revenue Agency. The CR agents looked at Dominic Tesoro. Mr. Tesoro, we've been examining your declared income for the past 3 years. It doesn't quite match your lifestyle. This $200,000 payment, which you are about to receive as repayment of an unlicensed high-interest loan, constitutes unreported income and evidence of illegal lending under the Criminal Code of Canada. Section 347, Criminal Interest Rate. Dominic's lawyer, a small man who had been silent the entire meeting, closed his briefcase. He knew it was over. The RCMP officer turned to Natalie and Troy. Natalie Pickering, Troy Pickering, you are under arrest for fraud, forgery, and financial elder abuse under the Criminal Code. You have the right to retain and instruct counsel without delay. Natalie screamed. She screamed so loud the glass walls seemed to vibrate. This isn't fair. He's manipulating you. He's a senile old man who doesn't know what he's doing. I stood up. I unhooked the tensor sling and let it drop to the marble floor. I rolled my shoulder. It was bruised. It hurt, but it worked perfectly fine. Natalie stared at my arm, then at my face. The frail old Natalie, I said. I'm not confused. I'm not soft. I am the man who built the approach spans of the Confederation Bridge. I am the man your mother married, and I am the man you tried to rob. Troy was already in handcuffs, sobbing. Cliff, please, please, it was her idea. I just went along. I was scared of Dominic, with a fury that made even the officers flinch. You coward. You spineless, pathetic coward. You wanted the money just as much as I did. You drove us to the notary. You picked the listing agent. Don't you dare put this on me. They were dragged apart, still screaming at each other. The sound echoed down the hallway long after the elevator doors closed. Ingrid came to stand beside me. It's done, Cliff. No, I said. It's just beginning. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived at my house in Ottawa. It was forwarded from Ingrid's office. The return address was the Surrey Pretrial Services Center. It was from Natalie. I recognized her handwriting, the same round, careful letters I had seen on her homework when she was 10. I sat on my back porch, the frozen Rideau Canal visible through the bare trees. The envelope was light. I turned it over in my hands. What could she possibly say? That she was sorry? She was sorry she got caught, that she loved me? Her love had a price tag. That it was all Troy's fault? A grown woman does not hide behind her husband. I walked inside to the fireplace Marguerite and I had built together when we renovated the house in 1994. I turned on the gas. I dropped the unopened letter into the flames. I watched the edges curl black and crumble to ash. I sit on that same porch most evenings now. The Ottawa winter is long, but I have always preferred the cold. It keeps you honest. The Marguerite Beaulieu Foundation is already handling its first cases. 3 elderly women in the Lower Mainland who were being drained by their own children. Barb Wellett runs the Vancouver office. She calls me every Tuesday. We talk about Marguerite. We don't talk about Natalie. My daughter is in custody awaiting trial. Her husband is in custody awaiting charges. Their loan shark is facing federal charges. And I am sitting by the fire in the house I built with my wife, drinking tea from the same mug I've used for 30 years. I made a mistake. I gave my daughter everything and taught her nothing. I gave her a house she didn't earn, a life she didn't build, and then I was surprised when she decided to take the rest. Marguerite tried to warn me. She saw the greed growing like mold behind the walls. She saw Troy feeding it. She knew that one day they would come for me, and she made sure that when they did, the very act of reaching for what wasn't theirs would be the thing that destroyed them. What would you have done? Would you have forgiven Natalie, or was cutting her off the only way she could learn? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one, and if you believe that the people you underestimate the most are often the strongest of all, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We have many more stories just like this one. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.